Let's talk some Chicago Bears news. Just kidding. This is a fantasy football draft. It's time for garbage time. Guys, welcome into Garbage Time Fantasy Football. Tonight it is me and JJ running a rookie mock draft for your Dynasty Leagues. How you doing tonight, JJ?
I'm tired, but happy to be back on the pod. It's been a little bit. I haven't been on since our mock draft, I don't think so. Well, actually, I did the wide receiver reaction. Never mind.
Yeah, so you've done at least a few.
Forever.
And, you know, the most populous person in our podcast, the Ghost of Brown Seymour, always on commentary. I'm surprised Ron didn't show up to this. He usually likes showing up for the mock drafts, at least.
He does.
Guys, if you like what you see on Garbage Time Fantasy Football, don't be afraid to leave comments and like and subscribe to the show here on YouTube. If you prefer it in audio form, we're on Spotify, Apple, Google, Iheartradio, Tunein, and please leave reviews anywhere you find us too. That helps get us out there, and we love the feedback we get from you guys. Feel free to leave comments on any of the videos, and we'll answer your questions live on the show. Also, you can find us at www.garbagetimeff.com, where you can leave us voice and hate mails, which we will also respond to. And without further ado, let's get into that Bears news. How's that sound, JJ?
Oh, just wonderful.
News updates.
All right, let's get into that fucking wonderful Bears news. So let's let you rant there for a few minutes for your rebuilding Bears team.
I don't really need to rant. I just quarterback you don't really want or expect to see on your team, but the Bears signed Nathan Peterman today. They had brought in Ryan Willis, who's a younger quarterback. He got cut, and they brought in Nathan Peterman today. So.
Oh boy, 6 interception machine.
Yeah. When the one time the Bears played against him, they feasted. So a lot of Bears fans are saying that they just brought him into camp to boost the rookie DB's confidence because he's going to throw interceptions every practice.
Yeah, he feels like a wasted spot in your 90-man roster for someone else that could potentially make it though too. Like you couldn't bring in anyone better.
I don't know. RG3 said he wanted to play for the Bears and help Justin Fields. I feel like I would have preferred that to Peterman, but it is what it is.
At least he's formerly a mobile quarterback that could teach your second-year quarterback.
Yeah, he just ran a 4.48 in the Rich Eisen run, Rich run thing. So
yeah, so why not give him a shot and try him out there too? For fantasy football, how do you feel about that Bears wide receiving core?
A lot of question marks, a lot of hate going towards them, but some opportunities for some young guys. They another couple bits of news. They signed Tajah Sharp and Dante Pettis. So, I mean, guys that have just bounced around the league. So it's not really exciting, but. There's a couple young guys there that I think will get an opportunity and have a chance to do some things, but you think run first team.
Yeah, I think so too. You like Cole Kmet this year? It seems like he could get a lot of targets. There being a lot less weapons on the team.
Yeah, the new OC had his press conference following the rookie mini camp, and they asked him about Kmet, and he said he can really do everything, and he's going to have a big part in the offense. So.
Mm-hmm.
And him and Fields have been working out together in the offseason. So I think there's an opportunity, as long as he stops dropping the ball, for him to carve out a nice piece in the offense.
Okay, what's your thoughts on Keelan Cole getting signed by the Raiders tonight? Do you think there's actually any fantasy outlook for him potentially on that roster, or is this just someone that may not even make their final roster after training camp?
Yeah, I may not even make it. There's so many mouths to feed there. You got Kenyon Drake, the pass-catching running back. You got Waller. You got Devontae Adams. You got Bryan Edwards. You got Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Okay.
I don't know why you were a little bit confused on that.
Because there's the Hunter Renfroe in the MLB. Played for the Red Sox last year, and every time I say it, I think baseball, and I'm like, wait, no, that's a baseball player, but they actually just have the same name.
It's interesting that you brought up Hunter Renfroe because when there was some criminal issues in that wide receiving core for the Raiders last year, kind of emerged as a good possession receiver too, and I think he could kind of go under the radar in drafts this year too with Devontae Adams, who's going to be taking a lot of the corners and a lot of the heat off of him. They got a good tight end there too, and he's on the other side. I really think you could see him have a productive year. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, the middle of the field should be wide open for him with those two big guys drawing all the attention. I don't know what that dynamic's going to look like, but if you think about the Raiders offense, they're running the Patriots system, and we've seen Josh McDaniels pump targets into the slot receiver, and you think about Wes Welker and Julian Edelman and all those guys. Renfroe could maybe fill that role, but I just don't know if Carr is going to force feed Devontae Adams, seeing how they're best buddies and what that whole dynamic's going to look like. So.
It kind of feels like he would fit that role, but then again, like you said, this is a Josh McDaniels run team, so there's a good chance he'll be bringing in Tim Tebow to play tight end during training camp at minimum. So he does some weird shit, so we don't really know what the dynamics of this team is going to be. He seems to think he's Bill Belichick, hasn't proved that he is yet. He's a decent coordinator, but I see some weird things happening in that team's future that we do not expect, which is why there's a running back that we'll get into during this mock draft that is being projected to be pretty well now that they haven't given the fifth-year option to Josh Jacobs, and we've talked about this on a few shows now, and I'm sure it'll come up again tonight. And a little bit of other news, too. KJ Hamler is expected to be completely healthy this offseason for the Denver Broncos, a garbage time fantasy football favorite wide receiver. So anyway, carves himself out a role on this team, or is there just way too much in this wide receiver room for him there?
I mean, he's probably the
4th?
3A and 3B with Tim Patrick. He just has a different skill set. He's the burner and that's why he's saying he wants to be the lock-in. He could be the deep threat. You think about Judy, he's a skilled route runner, still fast, but Hamler's got the burning speed. So I mean, he's going to get deep looks, and that's kind of Russell Wilson's specialty is the deep ball. So I think there'll be games where he has a couple of deep catches, and he'll catch some bomb touchdowns this year for sure. But it's going to be hit or miss.
Yeah, and next little bit of news we have here, too, is the Ravens have withdrawn their tender on Tyson Williams now that they've signed a concreted-legged quarterback from the Panthers. Do you think this is more indicative of the fact that they signed that running back, or that they think Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are finally healthy?
You mean
Mike Davis?
The Falcons?
Yeah, the Falcons.
You said the Panthers. You said the quarterback from –
I meant Mike Davis came from the Panthers.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Tyson Williams had a lot of opportunity last year, and he fumbled and just wasn't great receiving the ball. So I don't think they were too attached to him. So I think they just brought in the veteran, be safe. I don't know where Dobbins and Edwards are in the rehab, but I'd assume they're going to be back.
I asked Ryan this last night, who do you think is going to be the lead running back in that backfield come next year? Is it going to be J.K. Dobbins again?
Yeah, as long as he's 100% back.
That'll be interesting to see if he is. What do you think about the leaked Cowboys-Packers matchup for Week 10? You really, really excited about that for fantasy football at least?
I don't know, I guess. All I know is I know what the Bears' first game of the year is and their last game of the year. So,
yeah, that's the Cheeseheads.
Yeah, Lions week 1, Packers week 18.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for you. Hopefully, you find a way to upset in week 1, but you're probably gonna get murdered in week 1. Your team's kind of in a strange flux right now.
Oh, we're not gonna get murdered by the Lions at home.
No. Probably not.
Might lose, but
yeah, we'll see. We'll get over that dark cloud and reach that part of the bridge when we get there. There's still a lot of off season for you guys to sign players. Akeem Ekwonu has signed his contract with the Panthers, and while this isn't highly relevant to fantasy football, offensive lines are very important to running backs on certain teams. Do you think he really helps someone coming off of injury like Christian McCaffrey? And does this elevate him in your mind now that someone like him is on the offensive line?
When I think of McCaffrey, I think of all the receptions and everything. So, he's good either way. Hopefully he can just stay healthy this year, obviously. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's good. He's a lot of people saw him as the best offensive lineman in the draft. So obviously that's going to help, and they already got Greg Little there. So
okay, is there any other news
situation?
Yeah, I think so too. I think he still fits somewhere into the. McCaffrey's a tough running back. I mean, healthy, he's top 3 in this league.
I just said that Greg Little, and he plays for the Dolphins now. I'm a noob.
That's okay. I can't even tell you which running backs are on which teams apparently between the Falcons and the Panthers. And my mind's back 1 year or two, so who the fuck knows? Anyway, did you happen to listen to the show yesterday, JJ?
I've not gotten to it yet.
Okay. Well, yesterday, me and Ryan brought up an interesting topic concerning the Steelers starting quarterback this year. So I needed to ask you before I pose a question to you. Who do you think is going to start for the Steelers in week 1? Because yesterday I said it was going to be Kenny Pickett. Ryan gave a little bit of issue to that, not on his part, but for the fact that you thought maybe Mitch Trubisky would be starting week 1. But I saw how his contract is laid out as a backup. So he suggested that we make an apology bet out of it, where I take Pickett for week 1 and you take Trubisky for week 1, and we see how it goes. So who's going to start for the Steelers in week 1, and are you willing to take that bet for your boy Mitch Trubisky?
I think Mitch starts week 1. They always give it to the veteran first. Even we saw Tyrod Taylor and Baker Mayfield. You see Dalton and Fields. You see Garoppolo and Lance. Unless they have nobody, they typically, like you draft Lawrence or Wilson when there's no one else on the roster.
You willing to hit that apology bet button for it?
I'll take an apology bet.
Okay. Let's do it, though. I can always go to and do a former Bears player apology bet. I think it's always easy. You'll take the upside with those.
I take the bait.
Yeah, you always make it interesting for the Heckling Fandom too. All right, without further ado, you ready to get into this rookie draft for the people that are doing it for their dynasty leagues now? Because they need the expert advice, right?
Yes, and also I would like to let you know that I have not forgotten about our apology bet.
What's that?
I'm not going to pull a Ron and just not write the apology.
Do you actually have it for tonight?
I don't have it for tonight.
Okay. We'll do that on another show then. Yeah. Ron still owes you one from like last year, and I don't even remember what the bet was about. Do you remember?
No. I honestly don't.
We'll have to go back into the historical archives and find out what that is and actually make him write it.
I feel like the offer is expired.
It's so funny because he always claims to be a striving journalist, yet he won't even write an apology for you. So that's always an interesting topic with Ron Seymour when he comes on the show, the true specter of this podcast. All right, let's get into this rookie draft. So I'm going to pull this up for you. JJ, just let me know if you can actually see this screen.
I see the screen.
All right, guys, we're going to do the first 3 rounds of this, and I'm going to manually add them to the draft. And we will go pick by pick and alternate here. And JJ, let's start you off tonight because this has been a debatable topic for you. So who would you like to take first in this rookie dynasty mock draft? And who do you think the Heckling Fandom should take in this spot?
Yeah, so I haven't really talked about the landing spots for these running backs. It's tough because both the top guys went somewhere where there's other backs that are going to have a prominent role. But I think ultimately Breece Hall probably is the way to go. Seattle is very high on Rashad Penny, and he's honestly, I think, going to get the first crack, and they'll mix Walker in. But I think Hall has the opportunity for all the goal line work and a majority of the carries there, while Carter will be the change of pace back. So I like Hall.
So me and Ryan covered this yesterday when we were covering the running backs on this show too. And Breece Hall, statistically speaking, is being compared to the likes of Adrian Peterson. But I brought up an interesting comparison, which I think you would find very interesting yesterday. I compared him to Matt Forte. I think he's got the good rushing ability and he's got some underrated catching upside. What do you think about that comparison?
Yeah, I mean, I like the comp. I think it's 40 times a little faster than Forte, so maybe he can outdo him. But I think that's fair. Forte did a couple good things for the Jets once he left the Bears. So
yeah, actually, this specific thought stuck in my mind overnight, and I made a YouTube short on it for our podcast too, where I talked about Breece Hall's value in the Jets offense because of an improved offensive line, Matt LaFleur's style of offense coming from the 49ers and then wanting to run the ball being quite high. But I think that's going to really push Michael Carter's value down to nothing more than a flex player who's going to have boom weeks when the outlook is the passing game. But when he's not doing that, I think you're going to see Breece Hall potentially be the bell cow, eventually similar to how Jonathan Taylor's playing.
I concur. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, with this second pick in the draft too, I would say this is the kind of draft where the quarterback position is not going to be heavily favored. And we're doing this draft as if it was going to be a 2-quarterback league, so Superflex. Kenneth Walker is going to Seattle here. We don't know what's going on with Chris Carson there. The neck injury has been bothering him. The coaching staff doesn't really want to talk about it there. They re-signed Rashad Penny. And honestly, I think they drafted him to potentially take Chris Carson's spot and maybe let Rashad Penny be the change of pace back. So do you think Kenneth Walker is a good pick here?
Yeah, I just think the way that Penny just broke out on the scene, he just started running all over everyone. So it'll be interesting to see if he can keep that up going into next season. I don't know. That's an interesting situation. It's one of the camp battles that I'm definitely going to have my eye on. I think it might take Walker a little bit to infiltrate the starting lineup or to get in the mix for more carries. And like you said, a lot of that is contingent on Chris Carson, but that's ultimately why I think Hall was the better pick. The first pick, not necessarily a better pick, but the first pick over Walker. So
okay. And interestingly, for the third spot of this rookie draft, this is my draft position. So I strategically allowed JJ to pick first overall tonight. So I'm not tipping my hand here a little bit. So JJ, who would you take with the third overall pick in this draft?
So, I mean, this is going to depend on my dynasty roster, whether I go receiver or running back here. If I'm a team like Ron, I'd probably go running back. He doesn't have any except Nick Chubb and Rashad Penny. So I think the pick here is probably the Jet, which is the way I think you're probably going to go in our draft.
So Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, I think Garrett Wilson.
So Garrett Wilson is a very interesting player in this spot.
I could go London too. I like Wilson's talent better. So
I think Wilson's got better talent than Drake London. He plays in a very similar style to like an Odell Beckham. The only thing that kind of concerns me is I do think the Jets are going to look to set the running game this year, and there's already quite a plethora of weapons on that offense. They've brought in a lot of depth, and he's a rookie coming in. I think if you were looking to win this year, Drake London would be your better bet just based on the volume. I could see why people would pick Treylon Burks in this spot there too. Going to Tennessee, there's a lot of comparisons to him. Being A.J. Brown, it's comparable. So I could see how you could go either way in this direction. So yeah, no, I see what you're doing with this pick. But I think there's a plethora of ways you can go. And you could also bank on Jameson Williams' upside too, even though I don't really personally love the fit with Detroit, but they're building something well there. And I can see why people would go that direction too.
Yeah, after 1, it gets really interesting. And 2 through 4, really, you can go so many different directions. A lot of it's going to be like some of these guys are going to make huge plays in the preseason, though it depends when you have your rookie draft. But
yeah, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball here. So the 4th pick, this being a Superflex league, there is a necessity to have quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are going to win your league here too. And there was only one that was taken in the first round, could potentially start for week 1. Me and JJ have already gotten into this a little bit tonight. I'm going to take Kenny Pickett in this spot. There's a lot of weapons there with the Steelers. Pat Freiermuth, there's a plethora of wide receivers there. They have a hell of a running back in that spot. So, even Ben Roethlisberger, after an injury, started during his rookie year and was pretty all right for the Steelers there too. So I could really see them starting him in week 1. What do you think about him with the weapons there potentially? And do you think this could be set up for potential success for him, or do you not like him here in the spot? Is it way too high?
Well, I don't think he's the starting quarterback on his team.
What about long-term in a dynasty?
Yeah, long-term, he's going to get a real shot at the job. Steelers are in an interesting spot because they took Pickett in the first round. Next year there's some actual, highly graded quarterbacks that are going to be up at the top of the draft. So they're really putting a lot of stock in Pickett. So it's an interesting spot. I think Mitch starts the year, but they're going to get a look at him. So he's going to play this year. Like it always works out with a rookie plays, and they need to get a look at him because, like I said, there's some really notable quarterbacks in next year's draft. So he's going to play this year.
Okay. Personally, for you though, is this too high for Kenny Pickett, even Superflex leagues?
For me, yeah, I wouldn't take him here.
I don't. Go ahead.
I'm not super attached to any of these quarterbacks, so I'm not going to take him until like maybe the 3rd round. Or I don't have a lot of faith in the quarterbacks in this class. So
fair enough. All right, who would you take at the 5 spot?
At 5, you got the 2 receivers there that really 3. Looking at 4, there's a lot of good receivers, but I am.
You gonna throw a curveball? You want me to go down that list a little bit?
No, I'm gonna go receiver here. I'm gonna go Drake London. You and I kind of talked about it on the wide receiver episode, but he has a great opportunity in Atlanta. There's tons of targets, not a lot of competition, and he has Kyle Pitts to take some of the attention off him, so he's not just thrown out into double coverage and thrown to the wolves. So
that's interesting in this spot too, because Drake London in a lot of drafts is going 1 or 2 just based on the volume, even with I would say the lack of quarterback there right now with Marcus Mariota playing. So it's pretty interesting to see where people are seeing him. They're comparing him to potentially a Brandon Marshall, which I think is a good comp. So you think this might be a steal here at number 5 if you got him this late?
Yeah, he's going to be the one. They're going to give him a real shot at it. So, and the only thing I worry about with him is the quarterback situation. Can Mariota get him the ball at a high enough clip? But
yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to surprise anyone here too. The next best one I believe on this board is Treylon Burks. So Treylon Burks falls to the 6th position in this draft, which is kind of interesting because I had the 6th pick in our draft too. So maybe a future dynamic of what happens in our draft, who knows? But yes, his comp is falling to the guy he is replacing, AJ Brown. I don't know if he could potentially be that weapon in this offense. And he's actually kind of concerning too, because should you see the Titans fall off a little bit this year, they may go into rebuild mode. And the guy behind him that they drafted is more of a running quarterback. So that's a little bit concerning. He's a little raw, I think, on his route running, but he's highly athletic, and that translates well into the NFL. What's your thoughts on Treylon Burks? And do you have any concerns with him?
No, I think it's a good spot for him. He's like London. He's got a huge opportunity, and he's getting the A.J. Brown comp left and right, so he's got huge shoes to fill.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just got to pick up the offense fast enough. And but I mean, he's going to be out there either way. Who else do they have?
Yeah, not a whole lot. They've got a injured guy coming off his ACL, so that is been kicked off the Rams. All right, so who would you take here at the 7th spot?
So I think I'm going to go back into the running back. Well,
Okay.
I think it's tough. Your order is different than the one I'm working with, but I do like James Cook here. I watched a lot of him, being at Florida State in the ACC. Unfortunately, I watched too much Syracuse football, so he's
so that's some disappointing football.
It is. He's an incredibly explosive player like his brother. He's a little bit undersized, but I think, Buffalo's been dying to be able to run the football. I think it's a good start for him. Obviously, the concern is Devin Singletary and Zach Moss are both still there, but Moss, we've seen healthy scratches for him, and Singletary has been spotty. He hits hot streaks, and then other games he disappears. So I like Cook. I just think he's too talented.
Yeah, people are a little bit concerned that he may fall into a committee.
Yep.
A big concern that I've been hearing from a lot of Dynasty podcasters is that James Cook weighs under 200 pounds. Apparently, a lot of running backs that weigh under 200 pounds and get picked somewhere in the range where he is tend to fall off. But listen here, he may be the outlier here. He's kind of a unicorn. Buffalo is a high-powered offense, and you want to acquire players that are in high-powered offenses, especially in dynasty formats where he may have a good year and he may have some value and you may be able to trade him away if you don't think he's going to have good long-term success here. But this is someone with an opportunity that could play very well, I think, right off the bat, and maybe the kind of player that they're looking for. So look for him to potentially get a lot of work here. And I believe in James Cook.
Yeah, they took him pretty early. They took him 63. So I mean, that's pretty good for a running back. And you also got to remember they signed Duke Johnson too, so somebody's going to get cut from that team. But
it's not going to be James Cook, that's for sure.
No, it's not.
I mean, Buffalo does some dumb things in the past, but that seems to be changing
Not
of the guard now. No,
Yeah.
not in the last few years. They seem to be making the right moves. And Cook is going to be that player that is going to be one of the most debated ones coming up for fantasy drafts this year, I think. Even a redraft, I think. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. All right, in this spot, too, there's a lot of decisions you can kind of go make. The wide receiver position is very deep. So I think I'm going to dip back into the well here, too. Chris Olave has fallen a little bit here. Jameson Williams also within this spot. There's a quarterback with the Saints that I said that wasn't going to start last year. But he's kind of got a little bit of a cannon arm. Some would compare him to Brett Favre. I would just call him a lobster thief. But that's potentially good outlooks for Chris Olave, who is kind of the burner coming from Ohio State, as opposed to the route runner on the other side, which was Garrett Wilson. So Chris Olave's got a spot here too, and he's got a good running mate on the other side of him. So I think I would take Chris Olave in this spot. I like the upside.
All right. I think that's a good pick. Yeah, so I'm going to dip back into the wide receiver position. You got Jameson Williams, like you kind of talked about, his landing spot wasn't great. I thought the Vikings were really stupid for not taking him at 12. He was right there to pair with Jefferson and be Thielen's successor. But obviously, wide receiver maybe in the best position in the draft, Skyy Moore, going to the Chiefs.
That's a hell of a spot for him to go.
It's a hell of a spot, and he has a huge opportunity. You think about who they have. They got Juju on a 1-year deal, and then they have McCole Hardman, who I believe is on the last year of his deal. Kelsey's getting up there in age, so if he clicks with Mahomes, he could be maybe the primary pass catcher in the next year or two. So he's still really young, and I like his outlook.
It really pisses me off that they took Skyy Moore in that spot too, because I was really hoping to move McCole Hardman before the draft and get some value for him. There's a lot of narrative that McCole Hardman is going to step into that Tyreek Hill spot. I've got a deep roster, so obviously I'm going to keep an eye on McCole Hardman, but I don't think that's going to be the role he takes, and I think Skyy Moore takes over for him early. So I think this is really good value for him too. And a lot of people are asking the Skyy Moore or Christian Watson question, who should you take in spots similar to this? But listen, Aaron Rodgers is, I believe, 37 or 38 and could be retiring in a few years. And they're looking at veteran options now, potentially Odell Beckham, which would push him farther down the roster and make him even less valuable in the long term. And we don't know if Jordan Love's really the answer, where Skyy Moore could be looking at 10 years of Patrick Mahomes. So I think he's the answer there.
Yep.
Even in this spot too, now I'll pick 10. Jameson Williams has fallen down the board here too. You may not see some value from him until at least midway through the season. Detroit's still rebuilding. They don't have the worst quarterback in the world. Alabama seems to just be a wide receiver factory as of late. I think he could potentially be a good fit here. And look, they could be picking one of the best quarterbacks in the draft next year. So I'm going to take Jameson Williams in this spot, and hopefully he doesn't kill Amon-Ra St. Brown's value for me. And we'll roll around now to the 2-1. JJ, who are you taking in this spot?
All right. Well, I'm gonna hook Team 10 up. They already got their wide receivers, so we're gonna go running back here. I like in this spot. I like Damian Pierce.
Sure as shit right about that. That's the one I would take too.
The Texans. He's gonna have a big opportunity. They have Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead in their backfield right now. One coming off an Achilles injury, who's never been, he's had a decent season with Indy, but he's had health concerns and a significant injury. And Burkhead is older veteran that isn't anything to write home about. So I think he has a real opportunity to take the RB1 job there in Houston.
He does, and actually me and Ryan were talking about this last night, and I brought up his name as potentially starting there, and Ryan was kind of pissed because he's like, damn it, I thought he was going to be someone that could go into the radar that I could potentially look at to take as a starting running back this year. I'm like, yeah, I think you're going to be seeing a lot of people looking at him, so you may have some competition there. He may get taken higher in drafts for running back needy teams, and we have a few of them in our league.
Yes, we do.
So we'll see. Boys, Team 9 going to be really happy here too, because they don't need the Skyy Moore or Christian Watson debate, because they're going to dip right back into the well here and take Christian Watson, who probably has some of the biggest boom potential, but also biggest bust potential in this draft. But hey, they've got Skyy Moore to balance it out, so they're very happy that Christian Watson has fallen to the spot. So they're taking them at the 2-2. Could come away with a steal. Could come away with, Denzel Mims.
All right. So I am going to go back to the running back position here for Team 8. Isaiah Spiller.
Yes. Yep.
I think he has the opportunity to be a great 1-2 punch with Austin Eckler. I think they've had Larry Roundtree and all these other bigger backs, but Spiller, I think, is a pretty high pedigree player with a real opportunity for a significant role in a good offense. So, and he's only 20 years old, so I think he's a solid pick.
He's really interesting because the Chargers have been trying to fill, and I talked about this last night, I'm going to cover it again right now. Isaiah Spiller is going to be that potential running back that eventually could take over that number 1 role from Austin Eckler, who's 26 or 27. Austin Eckler is a possession machine and is really kind of a wide receiver in his own right, and that's how he gets a lot of his points in fantasy football. They've been trying to fill that number 2 running back role for years, and Justin Jackson unsuccessfully filled that spot and shouldn't even really be in football. I don't think he's that good. And Isaiah Spiller is, well, not a very pretty player to watch. He's efficient. And they may look to move Eckler into that second role on 3rd down and let him play out the majority of his career left into age 32 and 33. So maybe the next 6-7 years in that passing role. So Isaiah Spiller may be in the reserve role this year and then take over that role as Eckler ages. So I don't think there's a better landing spot for Isaiah Spiller than the Los Angeles Chargers, which is a higher powered offense. So this is one you're going to have to sit on for a year or two, but could really pay dividends for you long term.
100%.
All right, I'm going to go back to the well here. And for Team 7, who already took James Cook, they're very happy to see George Pickens is still on the list for them to take here because, listen, yes, if Mitch Trubisky's throwing in the ball, could be a little bit of work there for him. And I could see George Pickens, who was touted as one of the top wide receivers in this entire draft before the injury, potentially maybe the number one before, beating out some of the wide receivers on this roster. You could see him being the number 2 wide receiver on this team should that talent shine through. So I could see him beating out Chase Claypool later on in the season. So I think George Pickens is a good fit for this team, and pairing him with James Cook would be a great pick for this team.
Okay.
So now we're moving on to the team that took Treylon Burks in the second round. Where do you think they should go now, JJ?
A lot of guys left I like. I think this guy is going to have to sit for a year, but he's in a good situation and a good offense. I'm going to go with Rachaad White, running back from the Bucs.
It's funny that you talk about Rachaad White because he's one of the players I really don't like, and I think I'm going to avoid in this rookie draft. He just really doesn't do it for me. They just resigned their starting running back, who I think is going to be the guy for the next 3 or 4 years. Tom, go ahead, finish your sentence.
No, I was just going to – I don't know about 3 or 4 years for Fournette, but I don't know. Maybe it may be a terrible pick. I'm not completely sold on him, but I just think that offense – I don't know. Now I'm talking myself out of it because Brady's probably going to retire and take his cushy job at Fox.
Well, yeah, I know. Make $375 million, as Ryan told me yesterday, about the amount of money he made for his entire career there. Like I said last night, it's going to really piss off Joe Buck. Going to come in with a nice bland personality, drink his smoothies on Fox, and break down Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
He'll be entertaining, man. He's funny. He'll be good with comic relief. He knows how to troll people. He'll be funny.
I had to watch him troll my team for 20 years. I don't want to have to listen to him talk for the next 20. I'll be watching a lot more
Super Bowls and everything else.
I'm going to be watching a lot more CBS games, I think. All right, so you brought up White in this spot here too, but honestly, there's a running back I like a lot better in this spot than White, and I think I'm going to put him into the spot. It's Tyler Algier for the Falcons. So they just cut a running back on that roster. Cordell Patterson is kind of more of an experiment back that they're kind of bringing back to fill a role. Algier could find himself in a starting role should Cordell Patterson go down or their record not reflect what they're hoping it should be. Although I think they're kind of tanking too. Algier could be the running back into the future of the Atlanta Falcons, though, too, should they rebuild, which they very well could be. Even though they drafted a quarterback this year, too, in the 3rd or 4th round, if one of those top guys presents itself, they could be looking to take a quarterback next year, too. So why not give the rookie some experience later on in the year? He could pay dividends for you. So I really like Tyler Algier over White in this spot because you could get some dividends really early into his career.
Okay. I don't mind.
So who's the Kenny Pickett team picking?
So they're going to go receiver. I like the player. Not a huge fan of the situation as of now. Jahan Dotson. He went higher in the draft than people thought, I think, but he's a really talented kid. Tough situation, like I said, with McLaurin and Samuel, and Wentz is his QB for now, but I think he's just too talented to let go any further down in the draft. So,
okay. Yeah, I don't like Dotson's spot either, but, he's a speedster. Speed kills in the league. I wish his quarterback was a little bit better, but they're not. So, taking him in the second round, though, I think it's a good spot for him. And he's definitely fallen a little bit on this draft board. I could see him going a little bit higher in a lot of mock drafts, but I would avoid him if I could. So the Garrett Wilson team at number 3 is also going to go into this very deep wide receiver class and pick David Bell for the reason that they just let go of a wide receiver, which the Packers could potentially be looking to pick up. And he fills that role with the Browns. Deshaun Watson could be the quarterback of that team, and that team is very wide receiver needy. So this is someone else that could have a little bit of value this year. So Bell might be a good option for them. What's your thoughts on Bell? I think you were a fan of him.
No, Ron was. I wasn't sold on him. I just thought in watching his highlights, he didn't really do – he got caught a lot. He's more of a possession guy. So I wasn't super sold on him, but Ron pointed it out. He's in a pretty good situation. Landry obviously has departed Cleveland, and they have brought in Amari Cooper, so he has the opportunity to be the 2 on the other side from Amari Cooper, who could draw a lot of attention. So he could be in a really good spot if he clicks with Watson. So it's at this spot, it's definitely not a bad pick.
Do you think he played in a similar style to Landry, or do you think he's a different kind of wide receiver?
I would agree. It kind of is a similar style, like not blazing speed, good route runner, possession guy. So, anyways, yes, I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay. All right, Sleeping Beauty, who would you have picked in that spot as opposed to that? I'm guessing we're about to hear that now.
So I really like Alec Pierce here. He is in a decent situation in Indy. He's going to start on the other side of Michael Pittman. They're kind of a similar player, tall guys that can go up and get the ball, but I think he's a little faster. Obviously playing in the AFC South, you're playing in a dome in your home stadium, and you play in Houston and in the warm weather. So I think he's in a good spot. He just has to click with Matt Ryan, but I really like Pierce.
I think that's a good fit too. All right, we're getting to that point where it's getting a little bit thinner at the positions, and you're going to have to start calling your shots here. Man, you could really take a quarterback in the spot because there's a little bit of value of that too. So I'm going to let the bias bleed through here just on the rushing ability alone into the future. I went to school at Liberty, so we're going to take the Liberty weapon here, Malik Willis, who probably would have gone in my first pick should he was taken in the first round, but that didn't happen. Listen, he's sitting in a team where he's probably going to sit for a year or two, but in Superflex leagues, rushing ability is king in the quarterback position, and he's someone that could be a future quarterback too for your team. This is someone you'd have to be patient with. I think he's a little bit raw, but he's going to a good head coach, and I don't think he could ask for a much better position to be in. That's really what he needs. So I'm going to sit on Malik Willis here, and he's going to go to the Breece Hall team. A little bit more bias for me.
All right.
Who you got at the 3-1?
Well, we're going to take a receiver. For some reason, Sleeper has him buried down in the rankings. I had to search. He plays for Chicago.
Give me the name.
I'm going to go with Velus Jones.
Now, this is some bias. Why would you take Velus Jones in the 3rd round? I'm very interested to know why, and I don't think you're going to get a lot of arguments of him ending up on your roster this year.
Because who else do the Bears have besides Mooney? Nobody. He runs a 4-3. He's going to be a big part of the offense. Getsy pounded the table for him. Fields liked him. So I think he's going to have a real opportunity in the offense, and he's going to be in motion a lot and on the field a ton. So I think he's going to have more opportunity than, let me see, George Pickens. So
yeah, he'll definitely be on the field on special teams anyway.
Okay,
but
Joe.
We'll see. You just signed, your true wide receiver, who's a former Atlanta player today, so he'll be playing opposite sides there. But no, actually, I don't hate Jones. I'm just really busting your chains here. He's got a lot of speed, a lot of potential there, and like you said, he is going to hit the field. So if he proves himself, he'll be on the field. All right, in this spot too, I am going to overlook Brian Robinson, which Ryan was really talking up last night. He seems to like Brian Robinson. I do not like Brian Robinson. I'm going to take Zamir White in this spot, who's going to be playing for the Raiders this year. This is another one you're going to have to be patient on, but running backs are also a commodity in dynasty leagues because they do not last for a long time. and he could find himself starting for the Raiders in a year or two. They didn't pick up the fifth-year option on Jacobs. So this is also a player that I think JJ would agree with me on is a good fit in the third round.
Yes. Yeah, I think come time to do the drafts here, once we get later in the season, I think he could move up in the rankings here. And I do think he's in a great spot. He's, I don't think the Raiders are going to want to pay Josh Jacobs. And I think he is the heir apparent. So I think it's a really good pick, really good value in that spot.
Okay, let's do some more projections into the future. Who are you looking to take in the 3-3?
So I'm kind of aligned with you, Brian Robinson. I'm not crazy about him, so I am going to go running back. I'm going to go Kyron Williams from Notre Dame. I think he really fell in the draft because of his combine 40. I think that hurt his value, but he plays faster than he ran, and he's a great pass catching back. I think McVay can do a lot of different things with him. Obviously, they have Akers and Henderson there, but it's kind of a long-term pick here in the third round. So I think he could really gain favor with McVay with the skill set. So.
Okay, in the third round, you're really throwing darts here, and you're hoping to acquire decent players. And there was a lot of players that went to the third round that busted, but where one didn't was with the 49ers. It was actually a running back that started for the 49ers that was drafting a lot of third-round rookie drafts. The Niners are kind of a running back factory, and they seem to always get hurt there too. So I'll take Tyrion Davis-Price in this spot too. It's another team that likes to run the ball a lot here too. And he gets it on your bench, and Brian Robinson falls even farther in this draft. What do you think about the 49ers situation here? Do you think this is too high for specifically this player?
No, I mean, it could be anybody any week. You saw what Mostert did there, and he was an undrafted free agent that bounced around the league. So, and they had Sermon, who they took earlier, and no, it was Elijah Moore.
Mitchell ended up, Elijah Mitchell ended up actually being the guy, and he was taken at this point last year.
That's right. So, 100% valid pick.
Now we are at the 3-5. Who's JJ LaPlante taking? Another Bear?
No Bear. You already took two quarterbacks, so I might as well break the ice and take one. So I'm going to go Desmond Ridder here. You think about quarterbacks that have a real opportunity to get into the starting lineup. I think after Pickett, Ridder is probably the next most likely. I think Willis will end up sitting the whole year unless Tannehill gets injured, which he hasn't done the past couple of years. So I'm going to go with Ridder. I think he's got a shot to play half the season maybe.
I think he does, but I think there's potentially a quarterback on the board here that could, I can't believe I'm going to say this, start from week one because Sam Darnold's on that team and he is a shitty-ass quarterback. Matt Corral, who you know all about down there. So why don't you enlighten us on Matt Corral, because I think he could get a lot of starts this year too, and you're throwing darts this late, so why not do it at a quarterback in the Superflex League?
I think Corral is a good athlete with decent accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
My question with him is between the ears. I think he's a little bit of a partier.
He is.
So I don't know if he's going to end up being Carolina's franchise quarterback. So that's why I went with Ridder over him. But you're right. He has a pretty easy path to starting with just Darnold in the way with what happened there last year. So, it's a real possibility. He's great.
All right, you are next up with the 3-7. Where are we going?
Yeah.
Bailey Zapp?
I think I'm gonna break the ice on tight end, and go Trey McBride. Obviously, the Cardinals have Zach Ertz there, but he's on the back end of his career, I think, and it usually takes tight ends a year or two to get integrated into the NFL and start producing. So I'll wait. I'm willing to wait on McBride. I think he's the best tight end and maybe the only one that's going to be drafted in these things. So
That's definitely a potential. All right, well, I've let him fall far enough, and Ryan likes Brian Robinson. He thinks he could actually get some work in the shitty Washington Commanders backfield. They actually benched their most talented running backs, which is irritating. They resigned J.D. McKissick. I don't see the avenue for him, but Ryan likes him. So Brian Robinson with the 3-8. What's your thoughts on Brian Robinson? You said you didn't like him that much either.
Yeah, just not in love with the situation. They brought back McKissick, right? So, a lot of people saw Antonio Gibson having the receiving skill set, having played receiver really in college, but they just give that role to McKissick, and then Gibson was really the first and second down back with a bunch of goal line touchdowns. So I don't know where Robinson fits into that. I don't see him getting a lot of playing time starting the year, so I think that's why he fell as far as he did for us.
All right, and with that, you are on the 3-9. So who are you taking as your last player in this draft, JJ?
All right, Ron, this one's just for you.
We're going to the tight end or the wide receiver.
Wide receiver, we're going to go with Wan'Dale Robinson.
Oh, boy. 21, 5'11", 185 pounds, and I had no idea who he was when they took him in the second round.
Ron's favorite pick in the draft. We're going with Wan'Dale. Obviously, the new regime doesn't like what they have in Tony. I don't think it's a talent thing. I think it's a personality thing. So I think he's going to get moved, and Wan'Dale will take over that role for them.
Definitely a possibility here, too.
There are mouths to feed there with Shepard and Galladay, but we'll see.
All right, I'm on Team 10 here. Players that could be taken on the spot are John Mechie, Jalen Tolbert, Sam Howell. Don't like personally any of them. I'm going to pretend this is a very running back needy team, so I'm going to go down the list a little bit. And there's a running back that could find a little bit of work should there be injuries, and it's a good running back team. So I'm going to throw a dart here at Jerome Ford for the Cleveland Browns, who's very similar to a Kareem Hunt and could find work if they got rid of Hunt in a year or two. So I'm going to go with Jerome Ford with the 3-10. Do you think I'm crazy going in this spot with him?
I don't think you're crazy. I think it makes sense.
You'd probably what? Repeat that. You've lagged out for the Heckling Fandom.
What happened?
You've lagged out, so repeat that whole sentence.
I might still be lagging.
You're not. I can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead and finish that sentence.
All right, now we're good. I may have gone Tolbert from Dallas. I think he may have a little more upside with Gallup still being hurt. The departure of Cooper and Wilson, there's a big hole there at receiver in an offense that on paper should be pretty good. So I think Tolbert's going to maybe have a little more opportunities rookie year than Ford.
Okay, is there any other names that the Heckling Fandom should look at as undrafted free agents then? Anyone else you liked?
Undrafted free agents?
Yeah. What about someone like Bellinger for the Giants? It doesn't seem like there's really a tight end there. I mean, if you really needed a tight end, I guess he's starting.
Who did they brought in somebody though?
I don't think they brought in shit, did they?
They did. I gotta find this out.
All right, Heckling Fandom, we're going real deep here for you. Is Bellinger going to be decent or not for the Giants roster?
Who did they sign?
Probably no one good.
Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah, he's probably the starter there. So now Bellinger's not starting worthy, I guess. I guess that was the wrong information I gave on the
They also
podcast
signed
yesterday.
Jordan Akins from
the
Titans or Texans. My God, my brain is mush.
What do you think about Snoop Connor? We were, giddy over the name, not the fact he's actually going to have any production for the Jaguars.
Yeah, it's a guy.
A guy.
No, he's got a shot. It depends on Robinson's recovery from the Achilles injury. But ETN's gonna eat up a lot. But
and what did you think of Sam Howell going completely undrafted in our draft with the Washington Commanders when he was talking about potentially being the top quarterback in this draft last year if you would have done it in the middle of the summer?
Well, a report came out today that he only eats chicken.
Okay.
He's never had a hamburger or a steak, so instantly I will not draft him. So
just based on that?
Yes.
Now look for him to get traded to the Bears in a year or two. And you're going to have a chicken-eating quarterback.
To pair with Peterman in the quarterback room.
Perfect. I can see 10 years of disparity coming from the Chicago Bears in the future.
No.
And with that, karma has now hit the Jets, and they won't go to the Super Bowl for another 30 years. And with that, guys, if you like what you hear on Garbage Time Fantasy Football, use our guidance here for your Dynasty Rookie Drafts. And if you do great, let us know. And if you do horrible, let us know. We'd like the feedback. We'd like the comments on the show. We'd like to bring them up on the show. Feel free to scream at us over the voicemails at www.garbagetimeff.com. Like, as I just said, you can leave voicemails, scream mails, or hate mails. We will play them live on the show and respond to them. That is always fun when we get one of those. And again, if you'd like to listen to us in audio format, you can do that at Spotify, Apple, Google, Tunein, Iheartradio, Amazon, and anywhere else you get your podcast. So, JJ, anything you'd like to say to the Heckling Fandom before we get out of here?
No, I'll bring more energy next time. Maybe I'll start doing shots again or something.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have to do that. We're going to have to do at some point a drinking draft where, you do a shot like after maybe a certain player's name comes up, or if you draft a Chicago Bear player. It'd be very interesting to do because, there's always someone at the draft party that is drinking way too much. So we need to do the mock draft for that guy. So getting 2 or 3 of us to do it, even if Ron doesn't drink, I think would be pretty entertaining and good for that fandom because they know they've all done it in their life. And on that thought tonight, have a good night, guys.
Schedule release tomorrow.
What would you like to say something to them?
I just said the NFL schedule releases tomorrow.
All right. With that, let's get out of here. Good night, guys.